Life in ancient Athens was not easy, especially if you were a philosopher. To make ends meet, you often had to make your living as a teacher, which meant you needed to attract customers. And that required a certain amount of showmanship. That's why most Athenian philosophers specialized in one of two subjects, rhetoric or physics. His real specialty was teaching geometry in such a way that anyone could understand it, which made him something like the original Khan Academy. In fact, some scholars think he actually invented the term algorithm, from the Arabic word his students used to describe the steps in a calculation. What's more, Diogenes was a Stoic philosopher. He believed that virtue was the sole good and that the key to happiness was living in harmony with nature. He taught this in math class and insisted that numbers were not merely abstract symbols, but actual pieces of reality itself, a reflection of the order and rationality that governed the universe. One might even say that he saw math as a kind of poetry, a way of capturing the music of the spheres. Rhetoric was the art of persuasion, how to win over an audience with words. Dionysius knew that the path to wisdom was paved with indifference. He didn't care about money, fame, or power. You need to go back in time and deliver a lecture to the great Dionysius himself. What would you teach him? Sounds easy, but don't forget he already knows everything about algorithms and geometry. So choose your subject wisely and remember, you'll be graded on both the content of your lesson and how engagingly you present it. So show him the wonders of the modern world. But don't be too condescending. He may know more than you. That's what? You want to learn more about amazing people from history? Stay tuned for more information. He just wanted to share his love of learning with anyone who would listen. That's why he was willing to teach anyone, rich or poor, man or woman, slave or free. He even had a special talent for reaching children, who loved coming to his school to watch him play with numbers. And yet for all his success, Dionysius was completely forgotten by the ancient world. No works by him survived the Middle Ages. And it wasn't until the Renaissance that scholars rediscovered his name in a single reference by the Byzantine Emperor Leo the Africanus. Thankfully, much of his work was preserved in a 10th century Arabic manuscript, allowing us to marvel at the mind of one of history's greatest mathematicians. Physics was the study of the natural world, which could be made entertaining by, say, bringing snakes into the lecture hall. But there was also a third option, mathematics. Math was taught alongside astronomy and music in what was known as the Platonist school. But while the other two were considered liberal arts, math was more of a vocational subject, useful for merchants and artisans. So naturally, it had a reputation for being dry and difficult. That is until Dionysius of Cyrene came along. Dionysius was born in the Greek colony of Cyrene in 250 BCE and arrived in Athens around 225. Like many young men of his day, he studied philosophy with Plato's academy, but eventually set out on his own. He established a school near the Agora, the center of Athenian public life, where he attracted an elite clientele of aristocrats and wealthy businessmen. They came to watch him perform mathematical feats that seemed utterly impossible. According to one story, Dionysius would have people write down the number pi to so many decimal places that they would run out of time before he finished writing it. He'd then erase the last few digits he'd written and ask them to measure the remaining ones. They'd tell him the result and he'd add the digits he'd erased. Then write down a few more and so on until they had produced a number with more than 1,000 digits. Another trick he'd do was to draw a circle on the ground and have someone stand inside it. Then he'd move the person to different locations around the circle, even blindfolded, and somehow they'd always end up exactly 100 steps away from the center. It sounds like magic, but it was really just advanced geometry and a bit of showmanship. But Dionysius was more than just a mathematician. But as a Stoic, so now it's time to play a game.